Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Aliens and UFOs video. Alright, let's go ahead and let's do another entry here. This one yet again based on one of your newer suggestions. This one having to do with more of a phenomenon as opposed to an individual specific case. When I was reading this information, I had no idea something like this actually existed within the world of the UFOs and aliens, but it just goes to show that there's really such a little grasp when it comes to what we know in those type of worlds. In fact, this particular phenomenon seems to have a lot of sightings here in the US. Who knows, some of you may even have heard of it in your local area. And while this is more talking about a specific subject matter, I will also focus on just a few cases here and there, and then that way it'll highlight some of the many varieties that this particular phenomenon happens at certain locations. But it has to do with this. You're looking at a picture of at least one of those sightings now. The colloquial term is known as the black square UFOs. So let's go ahead and let's talk about all the fascinating information associated with this variation of a UFO. So what is a black square UFO? Well, you know how when you think of your average UFO, you think of the classic saucer-shaped type item, the one that you would see, like, let's say in classic movies or maybe even other films and so on, like Mars Attacks. Even that highlighted some of the more classic UFO sightings. And then there's also more on the lines of orbs, that one that I just talked about, in fact, in one of my recent videos, and other balls of light associated with UFO encounters. This one, though, is actually, just think of your average cube, your average static cube, colored black, and in some cases much, much larger than a UFO. And that's essentially what is a black square UFO. It's definitely something that's seen floating up in the air, and it has a very distinct blackish hue. And then the sizes of it range from just a few meters to, in one case, being about 18 to 20 meters across, to in another case, and I'll highlight this in just a few moments, being much, much larger, especially considering how it was seen compared to the sun. That's right. Apparently there was one black square UFO that was seen hovering in the area of the sun itself, showcasing the size, the mammoth size linked to it. But yes, these things, whatever they are known to travel in a static course, meaning they're just basically gliding from point A to point B. You know how when you read some other UFO encounters, how they just zigzag along through the sky, sometimes taking very sharp turns, very sharp curves, and in other cases just floating back and forth, reversing their trajectory and then coming back towards another area. Here, though, these black square UFOs just pretty much move along one line. In fact, I was reading several instances where the word hover seems to be more along the lines of the term used because of how still they are. That they're moving from point A to point B almost in a straight line, very predictable to see, which has caused a lot of sightings to be perfectly recorded because of the stillness associated with them. Also, another thing that's linked to them, not only is the eeriness of their stillness, but also the fact that there's no noise tied to them. Now, that's been said also about other UFOs, how there's no actual noise that you could discern, let's say, from your average airplane, helicopter, anything like that. It's just dead still, quiet when it comes to the noise in those UFOs, such as the case here with these black square UFOs as well. The idea is they're silently gliding again through the skies, and if but for the fact they're seen in daylight, imagine if this was at night, you'd probably have no idea that they would be there. What adds more to this is the fact that unlike other UFOs that tend to have almost like pulsating lights within them, either, let's say, on the outside of the UFO or in some cases seen inside the UFO, depending on the quote-unquote windows that the UFO has, these black square UFOs are just completely solid black. They're almost like monoliths traveling throughout the sky itself. And so imagine something like that happening at night, completely black, no lights, and completely silent. Again, you would have no idea that something would be there unless you were specifically looking or you happen to have some night vision goggles to be able to see that information. But yes, looking at some of the cases, there was one, in fact, that just occurred last year there in Gary, Indiana. There was a guy stating that he was traveling along some road, and then that's when he saw out there in the field, almost like a farm field, this black square UFO scanning the areas, how he described it. It almost looked like it was purposely stopping, going slowly, and then trying to make sure that it could, I guess, look at whatever it was looking around that area. And the fact that this could have been let's say, misidentified as a balloon or something else is false because of the fact that it's going against the wind. Specifically, this was one of the larger ones documented because it was maybe about 15 to 20 meters, let's say, in total length, which is, again, a very, very large distance or a very large craft in of itself. But that again was one that happened there in Gary, Indiana. There was another one I was reading that happened in California. If you go there to the California area, apparently some of the skies there in daylight, no less, have these situations involving these black square UFOs. In fact, one of them was videotaped going up across the skies, completely silent as well, and it was spinning in certain intervals. I don't know if it was like spinning like a clock or if it was spinning just randomly, like let's say a top wood that's about to fall over, something along those lines. But no, it was captured on video. Again, someone saw this. It was described as being completely silent, and they were able to see this thing, whatever it was, essentially up there in the air, moving about in a slow manner. And then there was another one yet in Florida that was captured, and this was in 2018. So again, a very recent sighting. There it was above a neighborhood of sorts, again slowly moving from point A to point B. Multiple witnesses were able to see it as well, again almost scanning certain areas. And then finally, I wanted to showcase the one I was talking about, the sun. Apparently this is an image associated with it. You can kind of see like there's a black image hovering over the sun. That would give you an idea of just how massive that is, if that was true. I'm going to take this one though with a grain of salt, because zooming in, it looks like it's something else, like it's almost dare I say superimposed on the actual image itself. But I just wanted to present all angles here, and then that way you'll be able to make up your own mind associated with it. Here's another image that showcases almost as if it was taken away. In other words, photoshopped away from the original image, if you could call the other image the original image. But it goes to show that if there was some kind of a Photoshop done to cover it up, that's at least what's being represented here. But yes, if you wanted to take that into account as far as it being by the sun and the size, it would be very, very massive. We're talking something probably larger than the Earth itself because of how big the sun is as well. But yes, just wanted to present that information too. Luckily though, there's no information linked to, let's say, these things being bad in terms of abductions or other type of horrors that people have encountered with some of the other classic UFOs. This may just be just another iteration of a UFO, and it just happens to be floating out there in the skies and people are capturing there. It begs the question though, nowadays with obviously so many things involving hovering aircrafts, the little tiny ones that people can buy and then float up in the sky, and they come in various versions themselves, from having the big fans to, I saw one that looks like almost like the Millennium Falcon, a mini one, but still Millennium Falcon device. It makes you wonder if some people are maybe playing pranks on neighborhoods by putting these things, let's say having them designed in a certain manner to look differently. But that's another iteration, another part that could help when it comes to trying to discern what's going on with these black square UFOs. Are they the real deal in some cases, or are they going to be something else, like almost like pranks in some cases too? Just wanted to mention that as well. But if anybody has any more info, anything else I might have missed, then please post those comments below. What about those of you that happen to be in those areas I was mentioning earlier, Indiana, California, Florida, maybe other parts of the US? If you have more information as to what's going on with black square UFOs, maybe specifically more local sightings, then please post those comments below. It'd be really, really great to hear. All right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care. Bye.